Good night, everyone. Welcome to our Next Generation Tech Talk. Tonight we're joined by a panel of Gen Zs, and I just want to thank our event partners, Cayman Enterprise City, Enterprise Cayman, and Stepping Stones Recruitment for helping to put this whole thing together. And I'm going to hand it over to Alyssa to introduce our panelists and to get it started.
All right. Thank you, Dee. A big thank you to everyone again for joining us this evening. On the panel today, we have Shataya Millwood, SEZC Client Experience Intern, Chad Owens, New Frontier Data SEZC Intern, Frederick Robson, Jack Copper Technology Intern with the CEC IT Department, and Nalani Swan, Cayman Islands Data Analytics Intern. Thank you guys so much for joining us. So we're diving into a panel discussion focused on the next generation of talent, exploring everything from education to employment and what really matters to this rising group of innovators. We've got 6 key questions lined up for tonight, and I'll invite each of our panelists to share their thoughts. You'll each have a few minutes, and I just ask for you to be mindful of time so we can hear from everyone this evening. Audience members, we are hoping that this will be an interactive conversation. So while we have some time at the end for Q&A, please feel free to jump in at any point with any questions. Let's get into it. So we'll start with quick introductions from each panelist. Tell us about yourself and your career goals. Where are you now and what are you working towards?
I am Frederick Robson. I'm currently studying at Cardiff Met University. I just completed my second year doing computer science there. Been interested in computer science and IT now for probably 5-6 years, and it really got me started doing robotics and being able to go away to competitions for that. Outside of university, I've got a big passion for sports. Played for the Cayman Islands national rugby team. In future, once I finish uni, I'm looking to get a graduate job and somewhere hopefully where there's room to grow and continue developing my skills and get more qualifications, which will then help me in the future.
Hi, I'm Chad Owens. I'm studying mechanical engineering at the University of South Florida. I just finished my first year and I'm interning at New Frontier Data, doing data science. I've always been interested in engineering and STEM from a young age, and I've done internships from like the age of 14 up until now. And my career goals are to, upon graduation, to come back to Cayman and contribute to society and potentially gain global experience abroad and develop my technical and leadership skills.
Hi, my name is Nalani Swan. I just completed my first year at university, studying computer science at the University of Leeds in the UK. I think that my journey in technology began when I took CXC IT, and then from there I was able to pursue computer science A-level at Cayman Prep. After that, I think I'm pleased to talk about my first year. I think I've had a very balanced first year. I was able to balance my academics. I enjoyed all the modules I took this year for computer science, as well as extracurriculars. I was able to delve deep in university societies like Computing Society and Women's Football. And this year I also had the opportunity to travel with the Cayman Islands national team to represent the Cayman Islands in football. I think now I'm back this summer to work with the Cayman Islands government for data analytics, and I'm looking forward to working on projects and contributing to the Cayman Islands. I think in terms of career goals, in the future, I have an entrepreneurial mindset, and I'm looking forward to developing websites and applications that will help to complement businesses in the Cayman Islands.
Hi, everyone. My name is Shataya Millwood. I'm a current student at UCCI studying social science. I hope to transfer into a bachelor's program in human resource management, as it's something I am deeply passionate about. I'm currently doing my summer internship with the client experience team at CEC. And a bit about myself. I play on the women's Premier League in Cayman. It's a local league for football. And why human resource management is because I like to see people grow and develop, and where else is to grow and develop within a workplace. So that's what I'm super passionate about. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. So we'll dive into our next question. What are your thoughts on the future of education? What do you think future education and education institutions should be offering, and in what format?
Yeah. So as education continues, AI is just going to get more and more prevalent. So for me, there needs to be a way to manage that, and I think one way that it would be good for this is to encourage and get easier access to resources. Over my 2 years now at university and doing assignments, I've always found the hardest part is finding the resources, and then from that there's just an ease of going to AI like ChatGPT and just getting your information there where it's not fact checked, and it can create resources.
I think that educational institutions should offer more apprenticeships where students can uh, practice their skills and see what they like and what they don't like to sort of narrow down their options and pursue what they're passionate about. I I also know a lot of people who study something that they're passionate about but don't really know like what they want to work into after university. So I think guiding young people into the right fields is very important.
I think that right now AI is definitely the new hot topic that everyone's talking about, and I think that further education institutions should definitely look into utilizing it effectively. I think one thing that people are having issues with nowadays is everyone's hearing about AI, but we don't exactly know how to use, or they don't know how to use it for themselves. I think that further education institutions should be teaching students in high school or university age, okay, if you're interested in this career field, this is how you can use AI as a tool to help you further that. Like if you're interested in cybersecurity and you don't know where to find resources, for example, or you don't know what certifications to get, you could be using AI to help you create a path for you to understand where you can go in that field. And I think that could work for numerous fields. It doesn't have to be in technology and engineering. It can be in finance or HR or whichever field you want to go into. And I think there definitely needs to be a balance. Obviously, some students nowadays are using AI to write their essays or do their math homework and everything like that. But I think that's decreasing the amount that students are actually thinking, having a sit down, doing their own work. I think that it's decreasing the amount of creatives we're having. And I think that honestly, it should be used effectively like that.
Sorry. My thoughts on the future of education is that education needs to become more flexible, as well as career specific towards the young generation in Cayman. Because what happens most of the time is that we're all learning the same curriculum, the same thing, but no one's really passionate about what they're learning. People might not really relate to, but there's some instances where you're sitting down in the math class and you're like, where am I going to use this algebra from? I'd rather be focusing on architecture or focusing on cosmetology. I feel like there should be more options within the new generation so that expanding on their career path in the future, that they're able to do something that they're actually passionate about.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for that. Next question. What are the biggest challenges you're currently facing or anticipating as you enter the workforce? So are there any specific barriers or gaps that you think employers should be aware of?
Well, right now, it's one of the challenges I'm facing with employment during university time is that because of my commitment to university, not many companies offer the flexibility, especially in a high density area like Cardiff. But in some barriers that I think companies miss out on people are through AI screenings of through the CVs and resumes. I think there's a opportunity there where people are missed just because they've used the wrong terminology that it's looking for. And I also think another area where they could miss people is just because they lack certain skills. There's the opportunity to train them, potentially if they've got a big potential in some of the other applicants which have the skills. You could, such as if they're younger, if they're just more driven, you could then create a better employee out of them.
I think bridging the gap between university and real world demands is something that could be a challenge because transferring your knowledge you gain in university to the real world can be a challenge, and having the right guidance and mentorship to develop you as a person and as a professional is important.
I think in a general sense, especially on island and even throughout our region, for example, I think one of the biggest challenges is still the digital divide between those who have access to the internet and other technologies like that and those who don't. And I feel as though as long as that gap is still really big, we're still not going to be able to progress. And especially Gen Z, if you don't have access to the internet, you don't have access to a computer at home, you will somewhat be left behind. Like in this day and age right now, if you're interested in software engineering or software development, you have to code your own portfolio. You have to have an active GitHub account, which you're actually submitting your projects to and stuff like that. And I feel like if you don't have a computer at home, how are you supposed to keep up with someone who does have a computer at home? And I think in a personal challenge, I think one thing is somewhat FOMO, like fear of missing out, or something fear of missing out, or you're trying to stay ahead, like you have somewhat imposter syndrome in the industry because you keep hearing these new programming languages being created every day, or these new frameworks and technologies you have to learn. And you're like, you're learning one thing, you start like a certification, and then something new comes out, they're saying you're not going to get a job if you don't know this, so you move on to the next thing, and you don't actually end up progressing anywhere. So I feel like one of the biggest challenges and like a solution to that challenge, even I face it, is knowing exactly what I want to kind of do, having a general aspect of that, continuing the path and finishing it, but still understanding that I can always take a turn and learn something new. Yeah.
Sorry, just bouncing off of what my fellow panelists said. My challenge, the biggest challenge I think is going in today is the experience gap. It's just if you're willing to give the young individuals that initial experience, and I think entering the job market would be easier, but nowadays internships are asking for like multiple years of experience and multiple different qualifications, but it's just like, how are they supposed to get that initial experience and become teachable if you're not willing to give them that?
Thank you.
Or anybody else who can answer this. We've been looking for interns for software engineering solution architects now for months. We're in the SEZC. Our last intern is now our key software solution architect driver, and I cannot find somebody on Cayman. The only qualification that we're giving people is you need to know where the button on the laptop is to turn it on. So I'm not sure whether your interpretation is from your aspect only, but may or may not really match what happens in the real world. Because I'm sure we're not the only ones. We're special, but not that special.
Yeah, I think it's mostly like what students have that's available to them. It's like how you outreach through the local community, because what happens most times is that most students don't know the resources that are available to them. So if we, if you do more outreach programs, then you could definitely find a young, eager individual that's willing to learn.
We got 10 responses in the first day.
Let me translate this into a more practical question. Where are y'all looking for jobs? Y'all looking for Craigslist?
So that was going to be my question. Where are you guys advertising the jobs?
I would. Right, that's exactly correct.
Right.
But for us, I'm CEC as well. Like for us, they put it up for me.
Right.
The CEC, and it's like within 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Within 24 hours, like 10 people.
Can you all tell us where y'all are looking for jobs? Yeah. I'm not gonna miss it.
would say in terms of technology like software engineering and software development, obviously we know the Cayman Islands is quite big in terms of law and finance, so those are like the two prevalent industries that everyone hears about. Like every now and then you'll see Deloitte, PwC, and KPMG on social media everywhere advertising a scholarship or an internship. So I feel as though you kind of have to advertise where Gen Z are. Instagram, you have to get an Instagram account in this day and age. There are a couple of us on LinkedIn, only a small amount, but we're still there on LinkedIn. And also the criteria that you are asking for after advertising, the criteria you're asking for in terms of who you want to come there, because I have 3 to 5 or so friends interested in software engineering or software development, but they're not able to apply for certain things because they don't happen to have things such as Cayman status. So if you're advertising if you want students and you have looser, I would say, if you want students, sometimes the requirements kind of have to come down, maybe PR or resident Cayman Islands for a certain amount of time. Yeah.
That can be difficult with I ran into that with whether they're commanding. So for us, they had to be commanding and born, right? Because of the PR status or the temporary work permits and things like that. So that can be difficult. But there are the only other thing I'll say is that in looking at the colleges and universities, here, there is a bit of a skill gap between what they're being taught versus what is being used right now. But that's why we created the internship. You should be able to find people pretty readily if you're as liberal with the requirements.
And we would love to help you find an intern as well, so please do let us know.
We went mainly through SEZC directly, and we have an internship program, and we've got 2 people. One is based in Kenya, and one is based somewhere in the UK. And yes, preferentially, I would take Canadians.
Wait, y'all don't look on Indeed? You don't use Indeed?
They don't do that.
You don't do that. So you literally look on Instagram for jobs?
No. In terms of like if you're looking for internships, you look at the company website. I check, for example, Cayman Islands government website, and first you have Instagram. You look at each company's website because they do have a job page specifically for students. They have a tab for students on island, so you can look there. And also you can look on LinkedIn because they do advertise on LinkedIn as well.
As well as
But I mean, like, if you're looking for opportunities, where do you go? Like, where do you type in the computer?
I would do research on the firms on island that are catering to the industry I want to go into. So if I'm interested in finance and technology, I'll look at PwC, Deloitte, KPMG. If I'm interested in software development, I will look at Harmonic Fund Services, Cayman Islands government, things like that. And then from there, I'll look at their individual job pages, their LinkedIn posts, and do my own research.
Your second year, correct? Or your third year?
I'm going into my second year at university.
Going into second year?
Yeah.
You just got your entrepreneurial project for next year.
Okay, sure. So Enterprise Cayman hosts their annual internship program every year. On average, we do receive over 150 applications. We do a call out to all SEZC companies to host an intern. From there, we shortlist and send them over to the SEZC companies. SEZC companies then take initiative to interview their preferred candidates. We do all of the onboarding, do all of the hard work, get them all ready to come on board. If you guys need assistance with co-working space, we have hot desks, we have our launch lab studios upstairs for them to work from as well.
That's ours for this summer, so they don't have that.
But yes, we do have interns that come and are available. Some of them that are working at going to school at UCCI, so they are available throughout the year as well, not just in those summer months. So if you are ever looking or it's not working out, just get back to us so that we can put in that extra work for you. Absolutely.
Can I
Absolutely.
One of the things that we also did with our internship program this year, Chad will tell you that they hated it for the first few days, but we put them also through skills training, skills leveling. So they went through an entire coding session, data process, data. So they went through learning how to work with Snowflake, learning how to use JSON and SQL, and just leveled up their skills so
Thank you guys so much. So the next question kind of piggybacks off that as well. What can companies do to better attract, retain, and develop Gen Z talent? What would you say stands out to you as a young professional?
I would say if companies are willing to teach. I feel like every Gen Z person that enters into the workforce, they're eager to learn. They're eager to just adapt and perform well, and they're quite flexible. So as long as the company's willing to sit down and hey, listen, teach them and give them those basic training skills, soft skills, I feel as though companies should be more, transparent. As Gen Z, we love transparency. We we love just overall reliability. Are you reliable enough to help us, grow as working individuals, as young adults in our professional careers?
I would say to attract, definitely they have to come with something creative. I feel like obviously if you're, I'm speaking more of a tech sense. I know the finance industry and other industries are different, but in technology, one thing I think all of us, I don't know who watched The Social Network when there was a kid, when they were a kid, like with Mark Zuckerberg, the movie about Mark Zuckerberg. Like we all watched that, we were all sparked by the creativity. We were like, oh, we want to do something like that when we're older. We want to learn something like that. And I think one thing that attracts us Gen Z is we're looking for the next creative thing. We want something unique and something we're passionate, we want to work on. So I feel like we have to do projects on island that are sparking people's creativity and their desire to actually put in work. Because I know there is a common misconception that our generation does not like to work and things like that. But I think that as time moves on and the years are passing by, our generation is realizing that we can't necessarily just go to work at 9 o'clock, leave at 5 p.m., do not really any meaningful work and continue that for years and years and years and then retire. We don't want to do that in life, and that's fair. I mean, that's not really a pleasing life to see. I don't know. But yeah, I feel like to attract as well in the tech sense as well. When you look at thriving economies who are doing well in technology, the work type of work style they're doing in terms of hybrid work style where you come in at 9, leave at 12, go home, work for like 2 hours at home and then come back after. That's kind of what the future is going to be like with a 3-day work week or something like that. Because once again, in terms of technology, if you're coding something, you're not going to be sitting at your desk from 9 to 5, an hour lunch break in between, and actually be productive or creative in your code. Like what we're doing at school right now, if we're programming and we have a week project for the week, how I'm going to code is I'm going to go to the library on Saturday at 9, code for about an hour and a half, take a break, socialize with friends, go back and code for another hour of meaningful work, have lunch for an hour, go back and code for probably 4 hours because I'm more inspired from lunch or whatever, and then take another break and then code for more. Like there are different ways, and especially in terms of technology and programming and development, we have a very creative way of doing that, and it's not necessarily strict and standard way of how we work, but that's how it works, and that's the future of technology in my opinion. So I think that in terms of hybrid working, that attracts Gen Z because that's how we work in university right now, that's how we work in college. And I think in terms of retaining and developing, like I don't know how long ago, maybe 20 or so years ago, 30 or so years ago, like if you knew Python, you were kind of guaranteed a job out of university if you studied computer science. But nowadays, if you don't know 3 or so languages, you don't have 2 internships under your belt, you don't practice lead code for hours and hours and hours, you're not really gonna get a job. And that's kind of unfortunate. And so I think the salary or so offered by companies who are taking on these Gen Z talent should match the amount of skills that we're coming with, because we're not just studying at university and trying to get first class or second class at university. We're actually doing things outside of school, creating our portfolio websites, going on GitHub and submitting projects. And then from there on, we're doing certifications outside of school, practicing lead code for hours on top of studying. So I think that the salary should match the effort we're putting into our work.
So can I ask a question?
Yes.
If you take a look at technology and the changes in technology, you talked about how you code and how you think and the progression through.
Yeah.
AI is changing that significantly. AI is doing a whole lot, and
yes.
It's now how you have that relationship. How do you see that impacting what can we do as you go forward?
In terms of like how's it impacting?
Coding.
In terms of coding?
In
Your
terms
work
of
product,
building
your work
things,
ethic,
et
your work
cetera, and work ethic, how do you see that influencing, changing the pattern that you have today?
Oh, I would say it really just depends on the person. Like if me from like speaking on myself, I would say I'm a very diligent worker. So I'm not gonna sit there and let AI code my entire program and then don't do any work and then say, oh, I coded this, and then when it doesn't work, I just give up. I'm gonna utilize AI. Like right now, there's shortcuts you can use in your code that AI shortcut tools you can use in your code that makes your life kind of simpler when you're coding, but there's still a lot of work you put in yourself. Like for example, when you hear people doing their work via ChatGPT or essays in ChatGPT, and there's errors in there, this and that. It's the same thing with code. You can ask ChatGPT to code something for you, but they'll never have that unique human ability to know exactly what that person is looking for or working at. So yeah.
So let me I know I'm going to make friends here. So number one, you play soccer or football.
Yeah.
I presume it's soccer.
Football, yeah.
Football, okay. So you have to go
I'm
to
the
the
only one allowed to say that. You can say that.
So use that analogy here.
Yeah.
The goalkeeper starts at 8 o'clock in the morning, the others are still having breakfast.
Yeah.
You're the striker, you come in at lunchtime,
yeah.
while the others are now having lunch.
Yes.
How do you play in a team? That doesn't work. I know it's a Gen Z mythology that you're all your own unique individuals.
Right.
But we work in teams.
Right.
Teams win.
Okay.
Individuals lose, and they lose bad.
Okay.
And if you're telling me that you want to work for somebody who asks you for 1 or 2 computer languages, which is yesterday's story,
right.
Nobody types code.
Okay.
I can tell you, I don't know code whatsoever.
Right.
I use Cursor and Sonnet 4 to write all of our demo apps in my spare time.
Okay.
Okay? So
Yeah.
if you think you're going to get a job from lunch to 2 and then an hour and a half off and then again before midnight, it's because you know 3 types of code and you want to spend your time with whatever, I wish you good luck, because the only way you're going to make that happen is being an entrepreneur and being on the other side where you have staff that you never know where they are, never know when they come, never know what they do.
Okay, may I answer now? Sorry. I think the football analogy is not a correct analogy to use, because of the fact that when we're coding, we're not exactly coding at the exact same time. Like, think of, for those who don't know, think of like if you're working on a Word document and everyone's typing at the exact same time. I think that's the football analogy you're using. I would think you would prefer to use a gymnastics analogy in terms of you have a team, like you have Team USA, and everyone's performing a different act. Like you have someone working on the, you're like someone's doing this one, something's doing that thing, and then at the end you calculate your team score together. I think that's a better analogy to use for a group of programmers working together. And I think that, sorry, what else did you say about like Gen Z not?
Kind of water it down a little bit.
Yeah.
Listen, I was a Y2K coder.
Yeah.
Right, back in the day. So,
yeah.
You know, back when the
Y2K.
That's why that could happen.
Right, but we had, we felt the same way at the time, right? When we were coding back then, that one, we were special, and that we were always gonna have jobs, but we needed nap couches and Nintendos. We didn't have Nintendo anymore, but we needed those things to do our jobs. We needed those special things to do our job. And I do actually think that, well, I don't know your name, sir, but Frank. Well, I think Frank might be a little bit harsh in his feedback. I don't think that feedback I don't think the feedback is unwise. Right? That there is a team, there is a melding that's going to have to happen. You are unique, and you're obviously very articulate, very articulate, and very smart. I love the fact that you switched his analogy on you, and you're much better. But business is a team.
Yeah.
Right? So we're gonna have to figure out how to work with Gen Z.
No, yeah.
Also, in their defense, the question was, how do you retain them? So they're telling us what they would like from the employers, and that was the nature of the question. There
Yeah.
wasn't a list of demands.
And when I say that, obviously I think you were just somewhat criticizing the like what we're asking for in terms of like hybrid work style, and saying that you were criticizing that.
No, I wasn't criticizing.
Oh, okay, I
I
misunderstood.
was telling you what we need in order to be effective.
Which
And
is
if you think as a gymnast,
yeah.
that's fair enough. How
Okay.
about we use the boxer analogy? You turn up and your sparring partner doesn't turn up. Coding is not something that is in your mind. It is working with your partner, finding solutions, being creative,
Yes. How
understanding
you're agreeing
your
with each other.
client that you work with doesn't care whether you want to work or not.
So when he talks about your partner, he talks about the fact that the coding you have has to be executed somewhere, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's understanding exactly really what is it they need. By the way, they don't always know what they need, so there's a first catch. But it's understanding what is it that they really need so that the code enables for that to occur.
Yeah.
How do you have that relationship if you're not interacting with them?
Oh, I get what you mean. I think what I was trying to say in terms of when you're working with someone and then one person wants to come in at this time, the other person wants to come in at that time, obviously there will be some communication in the mix. I'm not saying every single day you're only in office for like 3 hours. There's obviously a schedule and a timetable of you sit down with your team you're working with, you let them know this is how I like to code, but I'm willing to make this exception and come in at this time. Maybe you work 9 to 5 on a Monday. Tuesday you cut off like 3 hours from the office, and then next day you're still working 9 to 5. The other day you're working mainly at home. I'm talking in terms of hybrid. Hybrid means like you're putting both work styles into play there. And so that's what I necessarily mean by that's somewhat what I wouldn't say all, but a lot of Gen Z in terms of like software development and software engineering are looking at that type of work style because that enables us to be more creative and productive in our work.
It's also what's available in the open market. So we're also
Yeah.
competing with the open market with Upwork and things like that. You can globally find projects where you can work whatever the hell you want, right? And you don't have to adhere to a team. So there is that X factor that we are as business owners who need teams of developers and data scientists and engineers. We are also competing with the Internet of Things and the shared economy, which is Upwork, as I said before.
Yeah.
So I mean, the hybrid analogy I think you're trying to make is a solid one. But I think if you don't mind a little bit of advice, the hybrid would be a little bit more towards the not them adhering to you, but the combination of some symbiotic, relationship of people adhering to each other.
So I wanted to just jump in the mix there because what I'm hearing are two very important perspectives. Like it's a Gen Z panel, and so your position is what you require to be successful in the workplace, and what I'm hearing from the very frank Mr. Frank, the reality of the workplace. So it's sort of what you want from the workplace, and it's also what the workplace requires from you. So what I do believe, and I'll contextualize that with I'm a project manager working with teams, working on projects, working with engineers.
Yeah.
So there is that need to, I think for your side, to learn how to operate, learn how to find flexibility within a framework, because teams have to come together at points in time.
Oh, yeah.
But what you require in terms of hybrid, that's not a Gen Z thing, it's not a tomorrow, it's not a future thing, that's now. I want that, I have that, right? That's a today thing. I think a lot of us in the room have that, right? So it's understanding the need to be together as a team at points in time, and then figuring out how to be flexible, how to carve out your creative niche, and have that flow going in a way that does not have a negative impact on the business, on the team that you support. So it's sort of marrying the two things.
Definitely.
And can I ask a question? Sort of, it is kind of a reframing of what Frank was saying, but how are they teaching universities, or how do you view your opportunities with respect to like being a sort of a laborer in terms of like, okay, I'm a coder working on this code versus being a leader? So like one of the things that I heard from Frank, which I think is totally fair, is that there's so much labor that can be done by AI, right? If I'm hiring a coder right now, I'm not looking for a labor coder, I'm looking for a leader. I'm looking for somebody who can say, okay, I'm gonna hire this person in Vietnam and this person in and go to Upwork, and I'm gonna get this project done as cheaply as possible.
Yep.
And I'm curious how, like, do you feel that there are, in the university setting and the internship settings, is there a push, or do you see opportunities to develop your leadership skills and knowing where all the different sort of talent pools lie and how to get projects done quickly, as opposed to just learning lead code, or whatever, like, is there, do you see yourself getting that experience where you are?
From my experience in university, I don't think my leadership's developed at all. I don't think universities encourage and allow group projects in the sense that they do in the workspace. I've been a part of 2 group projects now, and every time it's been, oh, this person can't do this. There's been no accountability from everyone, and you can't pin that on yourself. You can't pin that on the university as well, because it's an individual thing, and you don't get to choose who you work with. That's the thing. That's one. But the difference is in the workplace. The work hires them. They know they've got the skills. In the university, you don't know who's got the skills. You just given them.
I also think, just bouncing back off, I'm sorry. It's just like going to UCCI, going to college. I mean, there's obviously some people, we all live on island time, so getting presentations done in an efficient manner is like, some kids are have more drive than others, and it's the type of people from then, like, oh, I don't want to work with this type of person. So I feel as though when companies like this gives us the opportunity to do internships, we get to see the structure of a real 9-to-5, how a team works. It's not all of us that are on like the hybrid side, or like that's what we expect. No, like, some of us actually do want the structure of a 9-to-5. You will find people like that. We do work as teams, we go on schedule, and I feel as though creating these internship opportunities for young Caymanians, or just young people in general, is equally as important, because each of us think differently. We're Generation Z. We all have our own mind and our own opinions. So I feel as though, like, say this person, like Nalani, like, as an entrepreneurial mindset, and she prefers that hybrid setting, whereas me, I'm more like strict and stern. Like, I'm more traditional. I feel as though a 9-to-5 would suffice me.
I think in terms of you were saying, is our universities helping us develop that teamwork and things along those lines? I think I would slightly disagree with in terms of like uni not developing you in terms of teamwork. So far, I've had a couple of teamwork group project works this year, and I think it didn't mimic necessarily the workplace. However, it was a good like beginning, because we are first year, so maybe we're coming from a school where we didn't do a lot of teamwork projects in that like university professional setting-ish, but it was kind of a nice stepping stone. And then from there, outside of university, I think that you kind of have to look for that experience yourself in terms of going to pre-professional programs and like spring weeks, going to spring weeks or spring semesters, or even reading weeks. Sometimes in October, we have this thing called Reading Week in the UK, where certain engineering, or sometimes even history or something, whatever subject you do, you have that week off. And then people and companies, financial service or engineering companies, they might offer for that week, you come in for 3 to 4 days and they teach you pre-professional work. And that's a good experience in itself. And I think in terms of engineering, like something to mimic engineering teamwork, you also have hackathons. You kind of have to look out for those. There are loads of free ones in the UK. And like I went to one this February for my own university, had Leeds Hack, and it was very good. I think it did mimic a teamwork. Like I didn't, in a team, not everyone's gonna know everything or how to do it. I wouldn't say I'm very that strong in back-end development, but my teammate was, and I didn't meet him before. He's in my course and my class and everything, but I didn't meet him before coming to the hackathon. And from that hackathon, he was able to teach me some more back-end, and I was able to teach him some front-end. And from there, we were able to start a friendship and everything like that, and help each other. And I feel like that, like things like that, tools like that are able to help us like learn something to mimic the workforce.
I think universities are trying to make their students work in groups and prepare them for the workforce, but I've been part of groups where I've just done the work all by myself, and it's quite frustrating. But doing my internship, it's allowed me to collaborate with my colleagues and experience the real work of world. Um, and the first 2 weeks of training were really helpful because it allowed us to make sure everyone was on the same path at the end of those 2 weeks, so we could get exposure to the real data and start playing with it.
Thank you guys very much. Engaging conversation from the audience. Thank you. So I think we kind of touched on this, but beyond salary, what really matters to you when choosing where to work? So what are the values, benefits, or cultural elements that make a difference to you guys?
Yeah, for me, the main things that are important to me are just, friends and family, first and foremost. I want to be able to spend time with them. I want to be able to continue getting connections with new people, and even if this is through work and encouraging going out with colleagues, to events like this, for example, or next week we've got the networking event, encouraging those sort of things. And then you're able to expand your network, I guess. And then other things that matter, I want to be able to do my extracurricular activities. I want to be able to go and play my sports in the evenings or on the weekend. I want to be able to I want to be able to have the ability to go away, with enough notice, obviously. And
They'll come with
oh, wait.
come to the bank account and 30 years experience.
Yeah, and then obviously I want to be for example, in the UK, it's from my experience, it's there's a lot of commuting. If I'm not able to live close enough to where I live, work, sorry, I've got to then commute an hour and a half. If then what happens? Car breaks down. I want the ability to be able to let them know I need to work from home today. Car's got to go into the shop or something at that short notice, but obviously not taking the mick at all.
I think having an inclusive environment where you walk in every day and you greet your colleagues is very important because it makes you more efficient and more motivated to work. And also doing things like giving back to the community, doing charitable things, and just giving back to the less fortunate is very important. Also, just having like a hybrid environment. I know people in Cayman who don't go into the office every day, but like work from home, or like 1 or 2 days out of the week. So stuff like that is interesting.
I think what's important to me is work-life balance, company culture, and also upskilling. By work-life balance, I don't necessarily mean, I come off at 5 and then I'm able to spend time with my family. If I come off at 5 and every single day I come off at 5, I'm extremely tired because the work they had me doing was like more than what I signed up for, what I signed my contract for. That's not work-life balance because I'm gonna come home tired and want to go to sleep. I'm not going to spend time with family or message any friends or anything like that. So that's very important to me. Company culture, athletics and sports is very big to me. So any company that's offering any extracurriculars like football, I know there's a corporate league for football on Ireland, things like that I look for in a company. So I would look for that. And upskilling, if a company is not constantly, but really dynamic in their technology, they're willing to change because they know it's more effective or more efficient. I'd rather work at that company than a company who's using the same technology for like 50 years. So that's important to me.
For me, choosing where to work, I would rather somewhere that I'm able to learn every single day. I feel as though as a young adult, it's very new to me. I'm just entering the workforce, and I want to learn as much as I can. Going into the, client experience intern position, I had nothing on my resume, but no like previous experience, and I feel like it was quite intimidating. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go into this. I'm gonna be ready to learn. They're gonna teach me so much. I feel like just that mindset alone is just I've learned so much already, and it's like in the future I want to go into a position where I'm constantly learning, constantly interacting with people, building personal relationships. I feel like that's so important, and be able to come off of we go to this event, not this like the first time ever doing something like this. I find it really cool. Just having that work life workflow matter is just really important to me, and I feel as though when you go into a company such as this one that's big on innovation, it's just so broad and it's so spectacular, and I'm just grateful for this opportunity alone. So I'm hoping to work at a company like this in the future.
Thank you guys so much. So we're on to our last question now. What's next for you? Where would you ideally like to be in the next 5 years?
For me, I would like to be in the IT sector personally. I don't right now don't really mind if I have to start at the bottom and then obviously progress. But ideally, I'd like to be in IT, continuing to learn, continuing to gain qualifications, and then that's what.
In 5 years, I see myself graduating my first degree, obviously, and potentially pursuing a master's degree and specializing in something more specific. I want to go into the industry of potentially data science or something along like that. I'm really enjoying analyzing data and working with big data sets. So yeah, that's where I see myself in 5 years.
I hate to say that.
For me, in 5 years, I'll hopefully finish my bachelor's in computer science, and I would either be deciding between going into work or pursuing a master's degree in something like advanced computer science or software engineering, something like that. If I decide to work, it would be for 3 to 5 or so years. I plan to upskill, learn as many skills as possible. I think for me, it's kind of, I'm interested in software engineering or quantitative trading. So right now, I'm trying to understand as many skills like data analytics, working with SQL, or for software engineering, knowing the languages I want to be using to create apps and websites like Flutter, Flow, Firebase, stuff like that. So, and then hopefully I will be halfway through my startup.
Halfway.
You had a question. If you were to ask me this, if you were to ask me this question approximately 3 months ago, I probably wouldn't be able to tell you. But this is why I think these internship positions are so important, because now I know what I want to do. So in the next 5 years, I'll hopefully be working in HR strategy and getting certificates within HR or organizational psychology.
Awesome. Audience, do we have any more questions for the panelists?
I have a sorry. No. I'm just gonna do what old ladies do. Give advice. I remember many years ago being told by my mentor when I was in my bachelor's degree, being told by my mentor, maybe don't rush into, and this is not to derail anybody, I'm just saying stuff. Maybe don't rush to do your master's degree, because what he found, and this time was like a BPI bank or something, and he was like, what he found is that doing that postgraduate, doing his master's degree when he had several more years of experience, he thinks that made it more meaningful. At that stage, he had more insight on what all his different opportunities looked like, and so he could choose better. And then even being immersed in that experience, it was more meaningful. He could contribute more to his classroom. He could take away more from that classroom. So I'm just saying something that I observe a lot is that a lot of people, and it's definitely not a bad thing. I'm a teacher as well. I'm very pro education. But I think we often try to get school out of the way and
And sometimes it doesn't hurt to like pace yourself. Like you said, 3 months ago, you would not have had a 5-year vision. Imagine year 2, your first year in internship, imagine what a year 2 looks like.
Right.
So sometimes it's just also pacing yourself, having the experiences, kind of seeing what the world has to offer, because as individuals, we have our own desires, we have our own visions for ourselves, but there's value also in taking a pause, living a bit, see what life has to offer you, and then choosing based on what's.
Just to add to that real quick, book knowledge versus experiential knowledge are two totally different things. You can be 100% smart in book knowledge and get every single answer right because it's logical, but when you get into the working world, it is not as black and white as that. So part of that experience is learning in the working world, taking that book knowledge and really pulling it into what does that really mean and how do I apply that in this scenario.
And that all depends what direction you go into, because what both ladies just said is utterly stupid nonsense and wrong. You can become a scientist or a physician. Without your degree, you can have as much experience as killing pigs as you want. You ain't being operating on the duty.
I also I agree with you all. Yeah, I feel as though like when Gen Z, because we're always on the social media, so we see everyone else living their life all like lavish and grand, and we want to hurry up and grow up and hurry up and finish our degrees so we can get these big time jobs and make a lot of money. But I feel as though that's unrealistic. Some of us, we do need to pace ourselves, and we do need to take time and just like settle and like find ourselves first before we can explore other options.
Also, don't forget social media at its core of the marketing.
Absolutely.
I got a question. It's more of a thesis, and I'm curious to see how many of you agree with me. But seriously, so I think 10 years ago, if you said you were studying software engineering or anything related to data science, all these sort of majors, I think everyone would have agreed that you're on a great path, super secure, very safe. You're going to make a lot of money. And I think now, you're entering a challenging workforce, a challenging environment, and if you were studying plumbing or air conditioning or electrical, you'd be in a much safer position. And I'm curious to know if you all agree with that thesis or if you disagree, and why.
I would somewhat agree with you. Yeah, like the ongoing joke on like for our university campus is like you pass a computer science class and you're past like the unemployment. Like for us, that's the joke. And yeah, 5 years ago, obviously you hear someone studying computer science, you're like, oh, you're gonna have a job at a uni, and now it's looking a bit uncertain. But honestly, like if you like this topic and you like the industry, like you kind of have to go with that uncertainty. It's like someone who's interested in drama, music, and art. Like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, well, even now they hear like it's a competitive industry. Like if you don't make it and stuff. But some people don't want to necessarily make it. Like some people are just really interested in doing what they love, and if that means they have to do their own freelance work or do their own entrepreneurial work for time to time, and then somewhat build it into a career, some people will do that.
And I also feel as though like there's so much pressure from the older generation to go into like these generic degrees like accounting, financial services, and they're like, okay, minds. They're like, yes, you go study that, and then you'll be set for life. But there's so much uncertainty going into the workforce nowadays that we never really know. Like before, if you were to tell a Cayman your parents, I want to study drama, they look at you like you're dumb.
Well, I think what you said earlier is true, right? I think that state of the art becomes labor, and labor becomes state of the art, right? And that there's always this kind of constant ebb and flow of that. And I think it's very true that a standard computer science degree right now is not going to get you much. Right?
Yeah.
But the nice thing, the good thing about what's going on in this market with computer science is that with not only AI, but all of the other different things that are happening with computer science and with data and with the expansion of, believe it or not, the cloud. There are so many different parts of computer science that specialties are very many are plentiful. And I don't think that it's an insecure workspace or work environment
And I would say, like, just go off what you're saying in terms of like it's somewhat uncertain or whatever that terminology, somewhat uncertain. Yeah, I think 3 years ago when everyone was saying going to tech, going to computer science, then you have a bunch of people who are not interested in it going into it, and they're just getting whatever certification they need to get. And then when they realize that, oh, everyone who's not really interested is getting the same certifications as me, and I can't get the job because I'm like a robot in a field full of robots. And it's like, you kind of have to be different. And like, obviously you hear people from the older generation saying like, actually put in work, actually like do something out of the box. And that's true. We do, us Gen Z have to do something out of the box. And like, so if you have someone who's actually interested and passionate in technology, then they have a small interest in like English literature, for example. Obviously going to do something to look for the intersection between whatever they could develop to do something regarding English literature wherever they're in their community or something. So I think it really just depends on who's actually interested at the root of the industry and who's not, because then that'll weed out people. Yeah.
Just a quick question, sorry. What factors led you to choose your university that you're studying at now?
Well, I didn't. For me, I didn't do a maths A level. I didn't enjoy maths enough to continue it for another 2 years, and that's boring. And that really limited my university options. Pretty much every university, bar maybe 10 I saw, required a maths A level to do computer science as a degree. It was a necessity, and so basically I applied to the few I could. That was why.
I chose the University of South Florida because it's just very close. It's a 2-hour flight from Tampa, so.
Well, when I would say I knew I wanted to go to the UK, but I didn't really know the UK enough to understand like which schools were the best and which schools weren't the best. So I kind of relied on my economics teacher during A-levels at the time to help me find schools, and she used to live in Leeds, so she said to go to the University of Leeds, and I looked at the university. It's a good city. It's a campus uni. They're certified for computer science, and it offered a really interesting course. So I was like, you know what, you can't really go wrong here.
I felt as though going to public school and graduating, I felt as though UCC had to kind of shove down our throats at first. It's like you have to go to UCC before you explore your other options. Now we know that's not true. But yeah, it was a safe option on a small island. So you think small most of the time. You don't think big. You don't think that you can go overseas and explore all these different degrees. Like normally you just go to UCCI, do dual enrollment, and go into business. And that's about it.
Thank you for being honest.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Yes, thank you guys so much.
Thank you guys so much. It was a very engaging conversation. I'm sure you guys will have a lot to talk about when you continue networking over there. You guys can continue to talk to the panelists as well over there. I just want to let you guys know that we do have a CEC member and young professional networking summer social coming up. It's next week, Thursday at Craft. There's free food, free drinks. You can RSVP using the QR code that's on the screen. And yeah, you can continue to network with each other and also young professionals like these on our panel. Yeah, and again, just want to thank Cayman Enterprise City, Enterprise Cayman, and Stepping Stones Recruitment for helping put this whole thing together. And thank you all again.